Hello again! I'm back with the final part of this series about my quilted cushion cover. By now I've finished most of the quilting. I stitched more or less in the ditch around the big stars as well as the small stars, and in these squares I stitched spirals following a pre-drawn guideline as improvisational stitching with black thread on black fabric is not something any sensible person would do, unless of course you're aiming for a very improvised look. Next, I wanted to add a circle to the middle of the big stars. As I couldn't make my mind up about the size of the circles, should I stitch a smaller circle or a bigger circle? I compromised and mixed things up. I used a medium-sized template for some areas and a bigger plus a smaller template for other areas. Since the rows of stars are an uneven number, it meant that I couldn't stitch the circle motifs in a regular grid, alternating the bigger and smaller circles, but had to position the circles in a more random way, where two small and two big circles sometimes are next to each other. But I didn't mind that, as it makes things more interesting. I'm really pleased with my choice to add spirals and circles, because there are now a lot of different geometric shapes in the surface. We have squares in different sizes. We have triangles in different shapes and with different angles. We have a pentagon. We have circles in different sizes. And we have spirals, which follow their own rules. So even though the basic grid of the biggest star blocks is quite static, I managed to introduce a lot of life and movement into the composition, which I really like. As I already said, most of the quilting is finished by now. What's still left to quilt are the sides of the quilt. If you've seen the other episodes, you know that for certain reasons I made a rather unorthodox decision with this quilt to stitch it into a tube before I finish the quilting. Therefore, I've left the sides unquilted for now. The next step is to square up the sides to get clean and straight edges all around the quilt. And after that, I will first stitch the side seams of the top layer, then take care of the batting and the backing fabric, which will leave me with a tube of quilted fabric. I will then pull the tube over the free arm of the sewing machine and quilt the remaining parts. After that, I will install a zipper in the side seam, stitch the other side seam and call it done. Now I've stitched the side seams. I started with some stay stitching, as I noticed that the seams were unraveling in some places and needed stabilizing. Then I put the top layer right sides together and stitched the side seams. The next step is to press open the seam allowance. After that, I need to trim off some of the batting so the edges are flush against each other. And the last step is to fold and press the seam allowance on one of the edges of the backing fabric and then close up the seam by hand. After that, I will be able to quilt the last bits. Now all the seams are stitched and it is time to turn the quilt tube right side out. Here's the seam from the inside, and this is what it looks like from the outside. Perfect! What's left now is to pull the tube over the free arm of the sewing machine and quilt the remaining bits around the stars and the remaining spirals and circles. So this is indeed the moment of truth. Will my plan work? It is a bit of an experiment, so however it goes, I'm sure I'll learn something. Honestly, I'm having some doubts at this point, so wish me luck. All the quilting is now finished according to plan, and to my great relief, it worked quite well. I wouldn't necessarily recommend working like this, but it is possible, which is always good to know. The fun thing about this quilted tube is that I'm now free to explore which part of it I want to use as the front of the cushion. By folding the tube in different places, I can audition the section that I find most pleasing. There will be full-sized stars at the bottom and a top row of stars that fold over to the back of the cushion. The only thing that remains now is to install a zipper in one side seam and to close up the other side seam. Thank you for following along on this little quilting adventure. Bye for now.